In a small town surrounded by dense forest, a group of friends gathered on a gloomy night for a gaming session. Among the dusty games and old boxes on the dusty shelf of a local antique store, they found a strangely attractive board game, the box of which displayed ancient ornaments and mysterious inscriptions. Continue following this and other horrible horror stories here on our channel. Subscribe and leave your like. Turn on the notification bell, and let's get to the story. Curious and excited, the friends decided to try the game, unaware that they were about to trigger a series of terrifying events that would change their lives forever. Sitting around a polished wooden table, they opened the box and revealed the contents inside. An intricately designed board, game pieces carved into strange shapes, and a set of cards with sinister images. Without hesitation, the friends began to play, rolling the dice and moving their pieces around the board. As they progressed through the game, they began to notice that something was wrong. The cards they turned over revealed terrible events that were yet to happen, and every move they made seemed to take them deeper into an abyss of darkness and despair. As the night wore on and the atmosphere around them became increasingly oppressive, the friends realized they were trapped in a living nightmare, where the boundaries between the real world and the supernatural became increasingly blurred. Dark creatures seemed to lurk in the shadows, watching their every move with glowing, hungry eyes. Despite the fear that enveloped them, the friends continued playing, desperate to find a way to break the game's curse and escape its nefarious influence. But as the night wore on and their strength dwindled, they began to realize they were in a fight for survival against an unknown and relentless force. As the hours passed and the darkness of the night deepened around them, the friends found themselves trapped in an endless nightmare from which there was no escape. They knew they had awakened something terrible by playing the cursed board game, and now they were paying the price for their foolish curiosity. So, as the moon shone in the night sky, the friends continued playing, unaware that they were about to embark on a terrifying journey through the chasms of hell, where only the bravest and most determined could survive. As the friends progressed through the cursed board game, a growing sense of despair began to settle among them. Each time they turned over a card, a new calamity unfolded before their astonished eyes, and they found themselves increasingly entangled in a sinister tangle of supernatural events. One of the cards revealed the image of a hooded figure, raising a gleaming scythe in the moonlight. The friends felt a shiver run down their spines as they realized that the figure was the personification of death, watching them with empty, emotionless eyes. Another letter showed a macabre scene of an abandoned house, with broken windows and doors shaking in the wind. The friends wondered what awaited them in that dark house, fearing the worst as they advanced across the board. As they played, the game's events began to mirror their real lives in disturbing ways. One of the friends, upon turning over a letter, saw a vision of his own imminent death, while another was confronted with the ghosts of his past sins, haunting him with guilt and remorse. As the night wore on and tensions rose, the friends realized they were being manipulated by forces beyond their understanding, drawn into a deadly game where the stakes were their own lives. But despite the fear and uncertainty that plagued them, the friends continued playing, determined to find a way to break the game's curse and escape its sinister grip. For they knew that if they failed, they would be doomed to wander forever in the shadows beyond, captive to a dark fate that had no mercy. As the friends continued playing the cursed board, the air around them seemed to become thicker, charged with a sinister energy that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Dancing shadows danced around the room, whispering promises of pain and torment in his ears. One of the game pieces, carved in the shape of a demonic figure, began to move on its own across the board, relentlessly advancing towards its friends as if it had a mind of its own. They watched in horror as the figure approached, knowing they could not escape their terrible fate. As they played, the friends began to feel an invisible presence approaching them, enveloping them in an icy embrace that penetrated to the bone. They knew they were not alone in the room, that something beyond human comprehension was watching their every move with hungry eyes. Then, suddenly, the atmosphere around him changed, becoming heavy and oppressive. A dark fog spread across the room, enveloping the friends in its cold, dark embrace. They could smell sulfur in the air, a smell that announced the presence of pure, untamed evil. Suddenly, A voice whispered in his ears, a soft, seductive whisper that promised power beyond imagination. The friends were tempted to give in to the voice, to succumb to its sinister influence, but something within them resisted, a spark of hope that refused to be extinguished. With renewed determination, the friends continued playing, knowing they were facing an enemy far beyond their capabilities. But they also knew that if they wanted to survive the night, they would have to stand together and fight to the end against the evil forces that haunted them. As the friends progressed through the cursed board game, the darkness around them seemed to grow, swallowing them in its icy embrace. Each time they turned over a card, a new vision of terror unfolded before their eyes, pushing them closer and closer to the abyss of despair. One of the cards revealed the image of a hooded figure, raising a burning torch in one hand and a sinister scythe in the other. The friends felt a shiver run down their spines as they realized they were being watched by a dark, relentless presence. Another card showed a distorted landscape, where twisted trees stood like ominous specters and the sky was dyed a deep red. The friends wondered if they were looking at a vision of the future, or if they were being drawn into a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. As they played, the friends began to feel a growing sense of oppression, as if they were being suffocated by an invisible presence that surrounded them on all sides. They struggled to remain calm, knowing they were facing forces beyond their understanding. Then, suddenly, the board began to shake beneath his fingers, as if it were alive and reacting to his movements. The game pieces began to move on their own, relentlessly advancing towards their friends with a sinister determination. As the night progressed and the darkness around them deepened, the friends found themselves trapped in a nightmare they could not escape. They knew they were facing a battle for their very existence, a battle that could only end in their victory or their destruction. As the friends continued with the cursed board game, the sense of imminent danger seemed to grow with each passing moment. Every movement they made was accompanied by a feeling of uneasiness, as if they were being watched by invisible eyes peering from the shadows. One of the game pieces, carved into the shape of a grotesque, twisted creature, began to emit an ominous glow that illuminated the room with a sickly, pale light. The friends felt a chill run through their bodies as they watched the play, knowing they were facing something terrible and evil. As they played, they began to hear strange sounds echoing off the walls of the room, malicious laughter and sinister whispers that seemed to come from all directions at once. They struggled to maintain their composure, knowing they were facing a threat they could neither see nor fully understand. Suddenly, the shadows around them seemed to twist and move, taking on sinister, distorted shapes that surrounded them on all sides. The friends found themselves trapped in a maze of darkness, not knowing where to turn or how to escape the threat that surrounded them. As the pressure mounted and fear settled in their hearts, the friends came together in a fierce determination to resist the forces of evil that haunted them. They knew they were facing a battle for their own survival, a battle they could only win if they remained united and refused to give in to the despair that threatened them. As the friends continued playing the cursed board, a growing sense of despair began to settle among them. Each card turned seemed to bring with it a new layer of terror, pushing them further into the abyss of the unknown. One of the cards revealed the image of a hooded figure, holding a flaming torch as he walked towards a dark and ominous door. The friends felt a shiver run down their spines as they realized they were about to be plunged into a deeper darkness than they had ever imagined. Another card showed a distorted landscape, where twisted trees stood like ominous specters, and the sky was dyed a deep red. The friends wondered if they were looking at a vision of the future, or if they were being drawn into a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. As they played, the friends began to feel a growing sense of oppression, as if they were being suffocated by an invisible presence that surrounded them on all sides. They struggled to remain calm, knowing they were facing forces beyond their understanding. Then, suddenly, the board began to shake beneath his fingers, as if it were alive and reacting to his movements. The game pieces began to move on their own, relentlessly advancing towards their friends with a sinister determination. As the night progressed and the darkness around them deepened, the friends found themselves trapped in a nightmare they could not escape. They knew they were facing a battle for their very existence, a battle that could only end in their victory or their destruction. With their hearts beating fast and their senses heightened by fear, the friends prepared for the final confrontation with the evil forces that haunted them. They knew they were facing an epic battle between light and darkness, a battle that would determine the fate of their souls. With fierce determination and renewed courage, the friends advanced through the cursed board game, facing each challenge with relentless resolve. They rolled the dice and moved their pieces with calculated precision, defying the forces of evil surrounding them. As the game reached its climax, the friends found themselves faced with an impossible choice: surrender to the power of evil and succumb to the darkness, or fight to the end, even if it meant facing a terrible, harrowing death. With heavy hearts and eyes full of determination, the friends chose the path of resistance, refusing to give in to the despair that threatened them. They banded together in a last-ditch effort to defeat the forces of evil once and for all, summoning all their courage and determination to face the enemy that surrounded them. Then, with a war cry that echoed through the room's dark and eerie corridors, the friends charged into the final battle. They faced the shadows with weapons drawn and hope in their hearts, knowing that they were fighting not only for their own lives, but for the future of all those who had been affected by the curse of the cursed board game. And so, as the shadows twisted and writhed around them, the friends fought with indomitable courage, determined not to be defeated by the darkness that haunted them. They knew they were facing an epic battle between good and evil, a battle whose outcome would determine the fate of their souls for all eternity.